Dude, eat chips during the recording. That would be awesome. So Sal Khan, apparently this is like 3 months old. And we were reminded in the meeting that we were just at this morning because we're creating a session at NCTE. Full plug. We'll be at NCTE co-presenting on a session, a workshop session for 4 hours about the power of AI in classrooms, kind of unpacking pros and pitfalls, just doing a lot of the work with English teachers about the role that AI can play, and obviously unpacking some of the hype as well. But it's called How AI Could Save, parentheses, Not Destroy Education.
Headlines like this, especially in education. The thesis has been students are going to be using ChatGPT and other forms of AI to cheat, do their assignments, they're not going to learn, and it's going to completely undermine education as we know it. Now, what I'm going to argue today is not only are there ways to mitigate all of that, if we put the right guardrails, we do the right things, we can mitigate it, but I think we're at the cusp of using AI for probably the biggest positive transformation that education has ever seen. And the way we're going to do that is by giving every student on the planet an artificially intelligent but amazing personal tutor.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop there because so what's interesting about this is that I think that Sal Khan and what we do at HRP lead with the exact same impetus for change, but come to very different solutions, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get the idea that ChatGPT and other AI tools should not lead to additional surveillance. We shouldn't ban AI. We should embrace AI. But I don't think the solution is introducing personalized AI tutors for every single kid.
Yeah, he had me for about the first 40 seconds of that. I was like, oh yeah, all this makes sense. And then just threw a wrench right in it right away. Before we go any further, let's talk about who Sal Khan is, because I think that right there is a good microcosm of like who he actually is. So let's pull up that Wikipedia bio, all right? As of July 2023, the Khan Academy channel has almost 8 million subscribers. Its videos have been viewed 2 billion times. Of course, I don't have any beef with Khan Academy, right? I used it prolifically in in pretty much all of my coursework, but the promises that Sal Khan was making 12 years ago, 15 years ago about this reimagining education, this video revolution, really never came to pass. And you can see here and you can see on there in 2012, 11 years ago, Khan was named in the annual publication of Time 100. And in the same year, he was featured on the cover of Forbes with the tagline, the $1 trillion opportunity. Now let's open that real quick. One man, one computer, 10 million students, how Khan Academy is reinventing education. Of course, this is what, from 2012.
God, that's a huge ad. Okay.
Forbes needs to get the bag. So so that's what's interesting, right? Again, the promises of AI today and what Sal Khan was talking about there with with having an AI tutor for every student was basically the promise that he had made 10 years ago in this $1 trillion idea. But it's just the classic tech bro hype man kind of game, right? Where you hype something up as being the next revolution to raise money off of it, that this new technology is going to displace, everything that we know about school. And what is Khan Academy? I, link kids to it as part of watch this video as part of this lesson.
There's a difference here between tools and systems, right?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
Khan Academy is a tool, as all ed tech is a tool, because classrooms are built on human connections and the systems that we find ourselves in. Like we talk about assessment and pedagogical delivery systems and project-based learning. Like these are things that we do in conjunction with other human beings. They're adaptable, they're textual, they can be negotiated and changed over the course of a year, versus a tool like videos and AI and the LMS platform that we're on, etc. They're not the same thing, but it seems like Sal Khan is trying to sell educational technology as a replacement to what the classroom does, changing its systems, as opposed to a tool that you connect to what you're already doing.
Now, you just segued perfectly into opening up the link to the Khan Lab School, which I know you have up over here. Let's take Khan Academy's vision about personalized learning and video content delivery to 10 million people around the world, or this new thing, right, where every person can have an AI tutor to enhance their personalized learning experience. And scroll down and let's see what Khan Lab School says about their method of pedagogical delivery.
The development of caring and trusting relationships, meaningful mastery based learning, a culture where students and teachers learn from one another, and the smart use of time, space, and technology.
Now, here's the deal. None of that requires Khan Academy. None of that requires an AI. That's just called school, right? Mastery based, obviously, is, kind of his buzzword based thing. It leads with relationships. Okay. And that's not something that really is part of Sal Khan's $1 trillion vision that they were just talking about in that Forbes article, right? This was just between you and your computer, you have access to all the education. We're going to reinvent education by video, by AI tutors, all these kinds of things.
And you can have access to this really innovative progressive school for only $30,000. If you're looking at what they highlight about the school, I mean, yeah, they talk about the assessment system, which is great. Mastery based learning, super cool.
Sure.
They talk
Fine.
about how it's learner centered and it's self directed, which I'm assuming it probably uses Khan Academy videos as part of the self directedness as well as the AI stuff. Sure. But their third pillar is experiential learning, outdoor
Right.
education, field trips, travel, internships. And as we'll see, I'm assuming in this video, this part is really left out. Again, it seems like an example of, hey, for the masses, the cost saving tool is just use this educational technology tool and it will fix education. But for the rich kids that can afford it, they can get the experiential learning and this changed up assessment system and all these nice things.
And look at this. Look at the class size, right? And typical class size 15. Well, I thought that the solution to the problem of class sizes was content delivery models like Khan Academy, because I don't have to teach it. I can assign a video, right? Or students can go at their own pace through these kinds of things. So why would class size should be 150 per teacher, right?
And we're going to give every teacher on the planet an amazing artificially intelligent teaching assistant. And just to appreciate how big of a deal it would be to give everyone a personal tutor, I show you this clip from Benjamin Bloom's 1984 Two Sigma study, or he called it the Two Sigma problem. The Two Sigma comes from two standard deviations, sigma the symbol for standard deviation, and he had good data that showed that, look, a normal distribution, that's the one that you see in the traditional bell curve right in the middle, that's how the world kind of sorts itself out, that if you were to give personal one-to-one tutoring for students, that you can actually get a distribution that looks like that right.
It's worth noting that this study and others like it that talk about one-to-one tutoring have been it's not that it's not true. Obviously, having one-to-one tutoring is super important for kids, but at least in my experience, I find that they're utilized by like corporate or business entities to sell tutoring because of the failings of like improperly funded public schools.
Well, I think a lot of it, again, let's think about his background. We didn't quite go to his educational credentials, but he is a graduate of MIT. He's got a master in science. He's an engineer. He's got an MBA from Harvard Business School.
Importantly, used to be a financial analyst.
Yes, he was a hedge fund analyst at Connective Capital Management. So this is a financial solution to him, right? It's an economic solution.
Yeah, and it's not that there's anything wrong necessarily with him being a business bro,
Yeah.
because I mean, we use a lot of products that are built by these tech guru-esque people and they can be useful, but that's
Yes.
very different than solving K-12 education.
How do you actually scale group instruction this way? How do you actually give it to everyone in an economic way? What I'm about to show you is, I think,
Well, what you do is you charge all of your kids $30,000 a year, and then you can actually scale this to crazy high rates.
the first moves towards doing that. Obviously, we've been trying to approximate it in some way at Khan Academy for over a decade now.
And to clarify too, nothing wrong with sending your kid to a school that charges $30,000 a year. It just
Totally.
shouldn't be at the expense of giving all the other kids a shitty education. That's not the solution. The solution is trying to figure out ways that public schools can also offer this to their kids.
I'm going to show you the early stages of what our AI, which we call Conmigo. So this right over here is a traditional exercise that you or many of your children might have seen on Khan Academy. But what's new is that little bot thing at the right. And we'll start by seeing one of the very important safeguards, which is the conversation is recorded and viewable by your teacher. It's moderated actually by a second AI. And also, it does not tell you the answer. It is not a cheating tool. Notice, when the student says, tell me the answer, it says, I'm your tutor. What do you think is the next step for solving the problem?
You know what the kids are going to do? They're just going to take that equation and copy and paste it into Google, and then it'll give them the answer. Or have Chat GPT up in the other. You know what this reminds me of? This is like the automated thing that you get when you go to a website. It's like the customer service agent.
Large language models are not good at mathematics. Notice, not only does it notice the mistake, it asks the student to explain their reasoning, but it's actually doing what I would say not just even an average tutor would do, but an excellent tutor would do. It's able to divine what is probably the misconception in that student's mind, that they probably didn't use the distributive properly. Remember, we need to distribute the -2 to both the 9 and the 2m inside of the parentheses.
Like, I'm with them. Like, that all sounds great. Like, there's nothing wrong with the idea of having an AI help teach you how to do these problems, right? So it sounds like what they've done is they've taken the Chat GPT framework and they've trained it to not just tell you what the answer is, but to give you the explanation for the answer at any given point.
This is a computer programming exercise on Khan Academy where the student needs to make the clouds part. We've all been trying to teach the world to code, but there aren't a lot of computing teachers out there. And what you just saw, even when I'm tutoring my kids when they're learning to code, I can't help them this well, this fast. This is really going to be a super tutor.
It's kind of like a yes and type answer to this, which is, yeah, this is an amazing tool for teachers to help them help more kids, because it is true that, of course, AI could act as your assistant to do this work. And for families, certainly having a tool like this to help your kids learn what they're doing. What's not mentioned in this is the capitalistic nature of tools like this, which is he alluded to it there by saying there's not enough computing teachers. Well, why are there not enough computing teachers? It's not that they don't exist. It's because it's not economically beneficial for most computing teachers to go into the field, because I could make a lot more money coding the Khan Academy tool than I would be teaching it. The end result of implementing this into the current system of education isn't going to just save all kids. It's going to push teachers out of the profession. You're going to build classrooms that look like me sitting down at a computer desk and learning through Khan Academy with no adult in the room, because they don't exist anymore, because it was more cost effective for me just to use Conmigo.
Right. It's kind of ominous just to say it contributes to that loss of quality, trained educators. This solution contributes to the problem that it's trying to solve.
Sal Khan might believe that this is a tool that's meant to help teachers, but I would venture to guess that he is familiar with how Khan Academy has been used in the past to do that exactly we were just talking about, how the video platform and course platform has been used to ostensibly deprofessionalize schools and replace teachers, right? Again, like, on its own, nothing wrong with this conceptually, but in practice, it often turns into just go on the website and do the stuff. Just use the tools. And it takes all the joy and interest and connectedness out of learning.
And it's not just exercises, it understands what you're watching. It understands the context of your video. It can answer the age-old question, why do I need to learn this? And it asks Socratically, well, what do you care about? And let's say the student says, I want to be a professional athlete. And it says, well, learning about the size of cells, which is what this video is about, that could be really useful for understanding nutrition and how your body works, etc. It can answer questions.
Also, very funny that the AI also answers like a teacher, because the truth to it is, like, you probably don't need to know that, but hey, it is what it is.
It can quiz you. It can connect it to other ideas. You can now ask as many questions of a video as you could ever dream of. So another big shortage out there, I remember the high school I went to, the student to guidance counselor ratio was about 200 or 300 to 1.
No. He's not doing what I think he's going to do.
We can use Conmigo to give every student a guidance counselor academic coach, career coach, life coach, which is exactly what you see right over here. And this is all, we launched this with the GPT-4 launch. We have a few thousand people on this. This isn't a fake demo. This is really it in action. And then there's, things that I think it would have been even hard. It would have been a little science fiction to do with even a traditional tutor. There's a student, we run an online high school with Arizona State University called Khan World School. And we have a student who attends that online school based in India. Her name's Sanvi. And she was doing a report on The Great Gatsby. And then she realized that she had Conmigo and that she could talk to Jay Gatsby himself. And so, splendid choice, old sport. I'm now Jay Gatsby, the enigmatic millionaire from F. Scott Fitzgerald's Classic.
Before we talk about that, he got past the guidance counselor thing really quick. Could you use AI to help plan out like your next steps in school? I mean, sure, but guidance counselors are arguably even more understaffed and underpaid than teachers are at most schools. We keep finding that guidance counselors have 200, 300, 400 person caseloads, which is
Mm-hmm.
far far too many. I have mixed feelings about this because can artificial intelligence be a way to revolutionize mental health? To an extent, yes, because it offers more access to people. And I think there's something to be said about the anonymity of it, where it's like big asterisk on this, right? An incredibly important part of having a connection to a real person that talks with nuance and understands more than these pragmatic average responses.
There's a secondary concern that I have just being in Iowa and seeing the impact of, these identity laws that are meant to attack LGBTQ and particularly transgender identities. Uh, how are these programmed to handle those? If a student is like, "Hey, I've been really struggling in managing my transition at home and at school. What kind of steps should I take in this process?" And what if Conmigo says, "According to House File, blah, 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 I am unable to discuss with you things related to gender identity and instruction, et cetera, et cetera." Oh, thanks, Conmigo. But now the school has replaced the personal connection with the AI generated thing.
I don't know. I worry about the long-term implications of teaching an entire generation of people through completely average program knowledge, especially when we start thinking about bias and ethics and what's left out. There's so many different issues with biases in AI, which we've covered in a separate video, and they do note that it makes mistakes, and they talk about why it makes mistakes. There's a little thing here hidden underneath the YouTube video, but from experience, that's not enough on its own to tell kids what exactly is going on. It's not enough to tell adults what's going on. People say all the time you can't trust Google or Wikipedia with the first response, but yet how many people just go blanketly by the first response that they see on Google without further investigation?
What if you're reading something that's not as, I don't want to say clear cut, but that you don't have as much information for? And I sent you a couple links that, yes, to Microsoft shuts down AI chatbot after it turned into a Nazi. So, of course, anything that has access to the internet that's going to be a trained AI language tool is going to be pulling from sources that are going to include, racist, hate speech, sexism, of course, all the other biases and prejudices that humans have.
I think that over time, Khan Academy probably would program
But
itself to prevent the most extreme examples. Go ahead.
yes, there's a quote on that article. The biggest problem with technology is often wrong, and when it's wrong, it's confidently wrong, and that's something that's not good in education.
I would assume that over time, Khan Academy would try its best to weed out the more extreme examples of chatting with Hitler or
Chatting
talking
with him.
about faith or
Video
religion in
title.
any way, shape, or form that could offend someone. But I think what it wouldn't lean away from is just reading the more traditional, quote unquote, neutral canon. For example, if you ask GPT what the top 10 books are of all time, it tends to give you information on the very traditional Western canon. And I know that this
Right.
is a hot button issue right now in the culture war of why are we getting rid of these Western values, these things that built what our world is today or whatever. But the world is a lot more complicated than even what is written in textbooks. And for the exact same reason that you can't just read a textbook cover to cover and answer the questions at the end of the chapter and say that you understand something, an AI that's trained on textbooks and only gives you the quote unquote neutral answer is also not going to give you a full perspective about what's going on.
Students can get into debates with the AI. And we've got this year's the students debating whether we should cancel student debt. The student is against canceling student debt. And we've gotten very clear feedback. We started running it at Con World School in our lab school that we have, Con Lab School. The students, the high school students especially, they're saying, this is amazing to be able to fine tune my arguments without fearing judgment. It makes me that much more confident to kind of go into the classroom and really participate. And we all know that Socratic dialogue debate is a great way to learn, but frankly, it's not out there for most students, but now it can be accessible to hopefully everyone.
Again, I feel like I sound like a broken record. Why is Socratic dialogue not open to the majority of students, and why do we need to put it on AI? Not that AI is a bad thing. This is great, cool. Refine your debates through AI and have kids do activities on AI. But the reason why Socratic dialogue is not found in so many schools is the class sizes are too large. There's not enough time to plan. Teachers are underpaid. They're deprofessionalized. And tools like this are not going to make Socratic dialogue in schools more likely. They're going to make them less likely because we're going to have the kids do it entirely online.
I was thinking too about what if you wanted to talk about a current issue, or talk about a book for whom the author is still alive. How does that work? How does the AI tool represent a person who is living or misrepresent? When you talk about war, and if you talk about occupations and colonialism and all these other kinds of things, whose response is it going to get to the issues that are happening today? Right? I don't know. It seems super sketchy.
Yeah, it's a little weird. And to be fair, would I use this in this way if I were teaching? Yeah, I might try doing an activity where kids argue with the AI before we have a debate as a class, but we're still going to have the debate as a class.
A lot of the narrative, we saw that in the headlines, has been it's going to do the writing for kids. Kids are not going to learn to write. But we are showing that there's ways that the AI doesn't write for you, it writes with you. So this is a little thing, and my 8-year-old is addicted to this, and he's not a kid that really liked writing before, but where, you could say, I want to write a horror story, and it says, ooh, a horror story, how spine-tingling and thrilling. Let's dive into the world of eerie shadows and chilling mysteries. And this is an activity where the student will write 2 sentences, and then the AI will write 2 sentences.
So you're hating on this. I actually love this. I think this is so cool. If I were 6 years old, I would be totally into this. Hell, I might still be into this. I like the idea of having a writing partner, which is kind of programmed to respond what I'm saying. It's like an interactive D&D companion.
Collaborate together on a story. The students write, Beatrice was a misunderstood ghost. She wanted to make friends, but kept scaring them by accident. But this is to directly use AI, use generative AI, to not undermine English and language arts, but to actually enhance it in ways that we couldn't have even conceived of even a year ago. This is reading comprehension. The students reading Steve Jobs' famous speech at Stanford.
Worth mentioning too, this is probably besides the point, but it is funny. What are the things that Sal Khan is bringing up as these great works that people are going to talk about? And so far we've received The Great Gatsby, which is probably the most Western white guy narrative you could possibly read in school. And then we bring up Steve Jobs in his Stanford commencement speech. And this is what I was getting at before with the issue with a value neutral,
Right, big
and I
scare
say that
quote.
from like a textbook angle, introduction of what AI values and what they think is important.
They can click on that little question, and the AI will then Socratically, almost like an oral exam, ask the student about things. And the AI can highlight parts of the passage. Why did the author use that word? What was their intent? Does it back up their argument? But we think this could be equally as powerful for the teacher to drive more personalized education and frankly save time and energy for themselves and for their students. So this is an American history exercise on Khan Academy. It's a question about the Spanish-American War. And at first it's in student mode. And if you say, tell me the answer, it's not going to tell the answer. It's going to go into tutoring mode. But that little toggle, which teachers have access to, they can turn student mode off. And then it goes into teacher mode. And what this does is it turns into, you could view it as a teacher's guide on steroids. Not only can it explain the answer, it can explain how you might want to teach it. It can help prepare the teacher.
Role play activity. The first thing is to role play colonization. If you saw the image that was at the top of this lesson, right, it was about the white man's burden.
Right. It's the famous image of the depiction
Yes.
of the white
Yes.
Uncle Sam.
Yes. Take up the white man's burden. And then you're going to role play this? In whose classroom? Where? What roles are we playing? Already, big L from Conmigo here.
Not only can it explain the answer, it can explain how you might want to teach it. It can help prepare the teacher for that material. It can help them create lesson plans, as you could see doing right there. It'll eventually help them create progress reports, to help them eventually grade. So once again, teachers spend about half their time with this type of activity, lesson planning. All of that energy can go back to them or go back to human interactions with their actual students. You know, one point I want to make, these large language models are so powerful, there's a temptation to say like, well, all these people are just going to slap them onto their websites, and it kind of turns the applications themselves into commodities. And what I got to tell you is
Is this not a commodity?
No. Sal Khan with his
whatever.
MBA from Harvard? No, not interested in commodities.
I mean, you purchase these tools.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it being a commodity.
That's one of the reasons why I didn't sleep for 2 weeks when I first had access to GPT-4 back in August. But we quickly realized that to actually make it magical, I think what you saw with Conmigo a little bit, it didn't interact with you the way that you see ChatGPT interacting. It was a little bit more magical. It was more Socratic. It was clearly much better at math. We could dramatically improve its ability in math and its ability in tutoring if we allowed the AI to think before it speaks. So if you're tutoring someone and you immediately just start talking before you assess their math, you might not get it right. But if you construct thoughts for yourself, and what you see on the right there is an actual AI thought, something that it generates for itself, but it does not share with the student, then its accuracy went up dramatically, and its ability to be a world-class tutor went up dramatically. And you can see it's talking to itself here. It says, the student got a different answer than I did, but do not tell them they made a mistake. Instead, ask them to explain how they got to that step.
I mean, I get that he's doing this for a TED Talk presentation. That's not how this works. The only difference that has been created within this model of AI, if we're going to go to layman's terms like he is this part that's bolded at the bottom. The AI is always going to do this whole equation based off of what was being said. And they put it in parentheses here because I think they know what they're doing. This idea of AI thoughts can be interpreted as AI as a sentient thing, which leads to what Hattie was getting at in that last article that we reacted to, which it makes both false assumptions and false promises about what AI can do for people, especially in education.
I'll just finish off. Hopefully, what I've just shown you is just half of what we are working on. And we think this is just the very tip of the iceberg of where this can actually go. And what I'd argue right now is I don't think this is like a flip of a coin, or this is something where we'll just have to wait and see which way it turns out. I think everyone here and beyond, we are active participants in this decision. I'm pretty convinced that the first line of reasoning is actually almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, that if we act with fear and if we say, hey, we just got to stop doing this stuff.
I agree with the statement that we can't just ignore AI exists.
Yeah.
I think you should incorporate AI into classrooms, and you should teach kids how it works and how to use it. That's all great. Sure. The, I guess, conspiratorial opinion here is that these type of students don't have access to more nuanced, interesting, critical takes, but kids that go to Khan Academy, the Khan Lab School, I should say, they have access to more nuanced takes because they're actually doing experiential learning and they're out in their community. So
I think all of us together have to fight like hell to make sure that we put the guardrails, we put in, when the problems arise, reasonable regulations, but we fight like hell for the positive use cases. Because very close to my heart, and obviously there's many potential positive use cases, but perhaps the most powerful use case, and perhaps the most poetic use case, is if AI, artificial intelligence, can be used to enhance HI, human intelligence, human potential, and human purpose.
It's the most Harvard MBA thing ever, which is just to say, let's take the 2 Sigma problem and turn it into the 2 Sigma opportunity. Let's use AI to supplement HI. And it's just gobbledygook, right? It's just jargon. I felt like this whole time I was kind of getting I was getting a timeshare pitch. This seems sort of out of the lane for TED Talks. I know they're kind of a cliche at this point, but this one seems particularly egregious.
God, how do we even summarize this without me just saying what I've already said? I mean, sure.
I have it for you, right? The gist here is that the tech bro saviorism complex is the thing that Sal Khan wants to fund because that's what he is, of course, invested in. Again, that's fine. But as we've said, human beings are the saviors that we've been waiting for. And the things that disinvest from human connection, human institutions, and human things are going to necessarily detract from HI and put it into some more tightly controlled, artificial box that, frankly, Sal Khan and people like him in terms of wealth, influence, status, et cetera, have a lot more control over than, say, you or I as classroom teachers, who could have a lot of impact in, marginalized, underfunded, under-resourced places. But rather than investing in the necessary training requirements to get humans in these spaces, his solution is the technological one. His solution is the one, of course, that benefits him and the people like him. And of course, he's not going to send his kids to schools that are going to primarily use this as their content delivery tool. He's going to send his kids to Khan Lab school. So human beings are the saviors that we've been waiting for. Invest in people. That seems pretty simple to me.
And the right mixture is to embrace AI in the classroom and talk about AI and use it and don't ban it, etc. But that doesn't mean turn your back on public education and the role of teachers. It means, and you could draw this opinion from what Sal Khan's saying in that TED video, he seems to be making the implication that teachers shouldn't be replaced by AI and that we shouldn't use Khan Academy exclusively. But he's also at the exact same time accepting this idea that schools are underfunded and not everyone has access to these things. The role of Khan Academy and these AI tools should be to supplement schools as a tool, not contribute to the narrative of we need to do more cost saving metrics because schools are underfunded. We need to just fund schools.
Remember, of course, you got to like, you got to subscribe, you got to share this video far and wide. And of course, go to ChatGPT and have it write a negative YouTube comment and drop it in the replies below. Thanks for watching.